Chair recognizes the member for Harbour Grace-Port de Grave.
Thank you, Chair. And it always is a privilege to speak here, no matter what the legislation, of course, or what the bill, but in this case we know it's an amendment, and I would like to commend my colleague, the member from Mount Sion, because the work that she's put in and the numbers, I've got a lot of confidence in her intelligence and her number and her predictions here that she's put forth, so thank you for that. She's probably one of the most talented members here in the House. But that's it too, and I'm also going to speak to my other honourable colleague across the House, who I have a lot of great respect for. Of course, the Minister of Finance is a great person, great representative, but he did make a point to talk about the debt that was inherited, of course, for the past 10 years. But I say to that member, I only wish that he was here during the time prior to 2016, and he was a member of that government, a voice of wisdom, when we were flush with cash, and I quote, when we had so much money during that time, and the debt that was carried then into the 2016 new administration. Because when we first took government, that's when I was first elected, 2015, November 30th, I think the date was, and a number of my colleagues here in this House on both sides were elected at that same time. We remember how hard that was. I remember I was a new MHA at the time, you know, obviously, and so excited, but let me tell you one thing, the shine came off very quickly when we had to make those tough decisions, and I personally was not in cabinet at the time, not in the cabinet, but of course, as a caucus, and the decisions that we'd even have to make to support the cabinet were they were startling. It was horrible, and we would all remember. And we were in that time facing, because of the horrible restraints that we had. And again, when we came off such a high, and again, members on that side actually were quoted in saying we're flush with cash. We actually went from have-not status to have status at that time. But unfortunately, there certainly wasn't a future fund in place. Because if there was, perhaps it could have been a different scenario, as we know. But that was a very hard time, to the point where the finance minister of the day also cut the cabinet positions by 10%. Salaries that were once 50 are now down to 40, as the members could now appreciate as well. We also removed paid positions from the deputy chair of committees. Of course, the member from Lab West would appreciate that now, and also parliamentary secretaries. There were a number of measures, of cost measures, that were put in place, you know, to help the people of the province because of the decisions that had to be made. And I remember when we came here, certainly the chair or the Speaker of the House would remember, because it was at that time when he actually left the caucus. He actually left the Liberal caucus at that time because of decisions that had to be made. No, at that time he was in the Liberal caucus. But I digress. But my point being, it was a hard time. So we would only wish that we could have your wisdom. And obviously, you know, because it would contradict your words you said about what was inherited from just 10 years. But imagine what was inherited back in 2016. And people say, you know, the bad word around here is Muskrat Falls, and I've even heard other members say that's a dead issue. Well, unfortunately, the debt is not a dead issue. The member even went as far as to say, you know, the credit card's still got to be paid off. Well, the credit card had to be paid off then. The credit card has still got a great big debt on it, you know. And we can only, I mean, we know what it's like. And again, when you're in government, you've got to be accountable. You've got to make those decisions. But what's not lost on anyone in the public, in my district, what I hear on the open line shows, is that things were said differently by a group that was here just not that long ago than what we're seeing now when they're in the position, when they're at the wheel. You know, they're the captain of the ship, if you will. And some hefty promises were made. We know something that could have been done. The House of Assembly could have been opened in the fall setting. I would say probably it was the most excited time I was ever looking forward to getting back in the House of Assembly back in this fall. But of course, we waited, we knew that wasn't going to happen. But there were some quick measures that could have been put in place back then, such as some taxes, you know, cut to businesses, as also the member of Mount Sion has also talked about, that would help small business owners here in our province significantly now, to do it before tax time. We also know, of course, we know power bills. We've heard people call in. I have to commend Dennis Brown, the consumer advocate, for the work that he has done and the credential that he brought to the position, and how vocal he has been against Newfoundland Labrador Hydro for what they can be doing, the measures they could be taking. But measures that we also know that the government has the power to do is to remove the provincial tax off of power bills. How can we justify a spike from $300 to $600? I have a constituent who called me up who has a number of homes and he rents them out. Well, there was one home that stood vacant for months, and he managed to get a bill for $700, and there are no utilities, There's no running electricity. There's no consumer usage there in the home, and this is happening. So there are a number of levers, and I mean, and again, it's just fact. I mean, it's all on Hansard. It's on record here in the House of Assembly about how passionate the members were on that side. I know the member for Grand Falls, Windsor-Buckins, how passionate he is every time he stood in that House. Very passionate, good, represents his constituents, and talked about how much can be done. Unfortunately, we're not seeing him up on his feet so often as we did. I look forward to hearing him speak whenever he does. But there's passion here to help. And now we're in a position to do just that. Yes, we have financial restraints we know that we have to work with, but, it's not lost on the public about the promises that were made and what they're now in the position, how we're walking it back. And another simple cost savings measure that can be done, I think it was an election promise to actually cut for paid parking at the Health Sciences Centre. Is that right? Am I right, colleagues, in saying that? Yeah. That was a promise. Well, that's something that can be done immediately. We know people from all across Newfoundland and Labrador travel in from Labrador, from Stephenville, from my district, from every district in this honourable House. We have people coming in there who have to be there. Nobody wants to go to the Health Sciences Centre. Nobody wants to go there, but people have to go there. But something that we can do immediately, that this government can cut the paid parking there. You can do that. That's a promise that was made. Hopefully, we'll see that happen. We don't know what's going to happen yet. We're going to see the budget. We're all anticipating the budget, and we're going to see what's in there. But also, too, I'd be remiss if I couldn't talk about the MOU. We perhaps should have talked more about the MOU, but what I will say and what I will commend is that we had international experts here for the first time in the history of this province that stood down here. They were seated down here. International experts, J.P. Morgan, Chase, I know my colleague from Conception Bay, East Bell Island can name them. He's very passionate about it, very well up on it. They were here, and they took questions from each and every member in the House, My gosh, Chair, I'm hearing chirping. I need to stay. It's only fair that I have my focus. You can stand up and talk. The member from Terra Nova can stand up and talk anytime he wishes. So we'll wait until it's his turn. So they were here. International experts. They were also interviewed by the media. They gave briefings.
Order,
questions
please.
That were here. Unprecedented debate. You don't get any more transparent than that. On this MOU, we know, and Premier Fury at the time, the member for Deer Lake, he was, actually opened the House after Christmas. No one wanted to come right back in, on Old Christmas Day. I think we celebrated Old Christmas Day here in the House Assembly, right? We got in here, though, and right, you wanted it and you got it. So my point is it's transparent, and we worked for it. We worked together on this to make sure that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians had the information, and that every elected member here, on behalf of each of their districts had an opportunity to question those experts, and that's what happened. And I know the member, the finance minister, he was very engaged at the time. So, I mean, and here we know this is a lifetime opportunity to make or break our province, if you will. We stood to gain $1 billion that you would have to work with right now in this budget, just and alone in good faith. We know that premiers of the past, Premier Williams, perhaps one of the most popular premiers here in this province, tried to cut open that deal and break open that deal to rectify the wrongs of the Churchill deal from '69. We know Premier Grimes did the same thing. But at this point in time, it didn't happen then. Couldn't be done, but in this point in time, Quebec is in a different position where they are in a desperate position for power. We have that resource. We don't see Saskatchewan coming knocking on our doors. People, we can hold grudges of the past, but we have to work with our geographical partners. But the thing is, we have the proper measures in place to protect Newfoundlanders and Labradorians from the rates going up and down. An escalation clause, if you will. But we stood to gain $250 billion. Imagine what can be done. I see the Premier over there, he's the expression on his face about the amount of money that I just hear put on record, but what we stand to gain. And it's only fair that that the Premier actually, gives us an update on the definitive agreements, what's happening. I mean, he talked about an independent panel. We know that the panel's not independent. It's the leader of the Emera, the Mayor in Nova Scotia, who gave us Muskrat Falls, is on that panel. Right, so this is the thing. Now, I'm running out of time quickly, but my point is, what that can do for the people of this province for cost of living, whether it's childcare, whether it's people wanting to pay their medications, people wanting to eat, people getting back and forth to work, it would make a world of difference. And talk about the hospitals that we could have. with that money. We wouldn't have to dip into an MCP budget, which is for surgeries, your your family member surgeries, your doctor's visits. That is not for that budget. So maybe that's a cost-saving measure that they're trying to dip into. But the people of the province know, and they're not happy about this first move. I call on the government.
Order, please.
I call on the Premier and the government to do the right thing. You have an opportunity to take this. This is a great tax that we introduced. We did this. So take it further and cut the tax, I say, to the Premier for the people of this province.
Member's time has expired.